Hi, my name is David. I am an Asian American, fully Japanese, with one of my family side being from Hawaii and one side being from Japan. Um, for my dad's side, it was yeah, more of, I guess, in terms of this class, you can talk about settler colonialism, right? And how just Japanese Americans kind of contributed to that in Hawaii, and just talking about the native versus like Japanese versus, I guess, Asian groups there. And on my mom's side, you can kind of talk about just Orientalism in the case of internment camps, right? We saw how Asians were treated differently, or at least specifically Japanese, in comparison to like Germans or Italians in America, right? It's very different, right? We got internment camps. But for me, like, yeah, big aha moment in terms of two concepts, mono minority and Orientalism, but we'll talk about Orientalism. For me, it was just realizing that, Asians are treated differently, right? Orientalism is the idea um, that Asians are sort of viewed in the context of being othered and being very romanticized or exotic in terms of just being seen as different, right? And it's kind of carried on. So I think, yeah, just that was the aha moment for me, just seeing how different my culture was viewed compared to others. But yeah, I think the material I saw this in was a new history of Asian America, Orientalism before Asian America. Kind of just spoke on the idea that, Asia was viewed differently because they're seen as like they were heard of but never seen, encountered, right? The idea that it was heard of as, exotic as and romanticized and different, right? And that kind of carried on to how people view us, right? So it kind of points to the idea that just why we're treated so differently and why Asians aren't normal are normal, right? Because we're Asian, so we're exotic and different. And while I don't think that was kind of the intention because of settler colonialism, right? That whole thing, but just how it carried on to now, right? And we see it in the present, right? In the terms of Minati, right? Minati and that article about it, just talking about how while they do speak Korean, it's not a foreign film, right? It kind of talks about just that if another film was spoken in a different language, but under the same circumstances, it wouldn't be a foreign film, right? And I think we have to be very careful with just how we carry those things because it really does matter, like how we name things, and in this case specifically, like it shouldn't be named foreign because it's focused on America, right? And it can't be that way just because we're Asian, right? It's sort of revealing this whole othering slash Orientalism seen even today. And I think for me, this kind of changed my thinking because I'm just better understood how other people view me. And I think understanding how the people were treated in the past helps me act in the future, right? Just understanding um, I'm not always seen as equal. I can be seen as different because I'm Asian, right? There are so many, right, stereotypes about Asians, and yeah, just being seen that way helps me understand how I might be seen, right? And for the future, just being able to see, um, just understand that I can be treated differently because of my race. And I mean, to be fair, that could go for any race, but at least in terms of Orientalism, just understanding that I can be seen as I guess, different in terms of the normal person, but um, to not perpetuate those stereotypes and thoughts. And then for mono minority, I think just talking about and just seeing how minority groups are pitted against each other and like BLM and COVID and just seeing how that came about. Those were kind of what brought me to it, right? The idea of mono minority is that, um, yeah, just that yeah, the mono minorities we're so great and look at us, but look at the other minorities that don't do well. That's kind of like a very basic understanding. But yeah, in the deconstructing the minority myth and how it contributes to the invisible minority reality in higher education research just kind of talks about how we're invisible in the research and just how we're less studied, we get less support, and how being seen as better hurts us, right? Because we're seen as doing okay, so we don't need help, and it damages us, right? And in the present, we kind of see this in one big thing and how it affects us, but it's the mono-minority myth used to wedge between Asians and African Americans, right? This is a big thing nowadays because the whole BLM thing and how it took over um, just a lot of people's minds for a really long time because of what happened, right? And um, but it also it's always carried back to the thing of Asians versus African Americans, right? I mean, I see it online too, right? Just that we're always used to contrast them in terms of we started at the same place, but how we ended up in completely different places, and we just have to be careful not to perpetuate that kind of idea, right? So for me, going forward, I better understand, right, that this is how Asians are treated, right? Mono minority, so we're treated differently. Um, yeah, and college admissions, right? We're and when bad things happen to us, we're not cared for, right? I feel like at least for me, I just saw a lot of people, and it felt like that people were rejected just because they're Asian, right? Not necessarily because they had like bad stats, but because they didn't want their whole college to be Asians, and it would be like not diverse. But that's more of a thought for me. But yeah, and I think at least for knowledge for the future is just understanding that I can't perpetuate this idea, right? Model minority is not something we want to fit. We don't want to be a model minority, right? It doesn't help Asians. It just damages our view, and it really just damages other minorities, right? It hurts just us in terms of support, and it's just we want to make sure that this is dissuaded and that this isn't something that's shared on throughout history and is repeated again, right? So, yeah, that's kind of my hope for us.